Is SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey a villain? Or Sankey? Sorry, sometimes it just mispronounces me. Is Greg Sankey a villain? He did a whole thing with Ross Dellinger where he refused to talk about the college football playoff again. And he's talking about how the college football playoff expansion Super League, that's not for me. But ask him about all the new money coming into college football, and all of a sudden, oh my God, the game is great. We're healthy. Everything's going well.
That's right.
But he doesn't want to talk about the college football Super League. And he doesn't much want to talk about the college football playoff and the fact that he completely and totally hijacked it. And it made me wonder, based on the comment section, based on all the college football fans, based on the public sentiment, is Greg Sankey truly a villain? Because whether you like it or not, Greg Sankey is a guy who makes money. That is a guy who makes the SEC money. He has undoubtedly raised their financial viability. And I think Greg Sankey is actually good for college football. I do not believe he is a villain. Now, is Greg Sankey, and maybe let's just keep talking in Dark Knight Ease, is he the hero that you wanted? He's not. But isn't Greg Sankey the hero that college football needed? Because Greg Sankey forced change in a time when not many people wanted change. And you can call him a heel. You can call him a villain. You can call, as some do, you can call Greg Sankey the devil. But Jake, I think Greg Sankey is much more of a hero than he is a devil.
I think what's difficult with Greg Sankey is the way he walks this very fine line of, greed versus trying to do something for college football. And what I mean is, like, Greg Sankey will be like, yeah, I'm not talking about a potential Super League. I'm not doing that. But man, wow. Something's going right with college football because we're getting paid a lot of money. So it's like, hey, we're making a lot of money, but no, I'm definitely not talking about changing the format that makes me a lot of money, because if we change that format, that's going to, potentially, lower the amount of money we make and make, the G5 more money and all that nonsense. So is he a villain? Villain's probably strong. Is he definitely a schemer, though? Absolutely, 100% positively, without a doubt, a schemer. No doubt about it. Always trying to make as much money as possible. Always trying to put his conference in the absolute best position possible, no matter who that affects, who that undercuts, whether that, cuts the knees out of the G5 or whatever the side effect is, he's going to do what he has to do. And in some ways, I do respect that. But in other ways, I feel like he has a responsibility to sort of shepherd the game forward when it comes to the business side of college football and making sure that it does stay healthy long term. Because if we get into a place where the gap just continues to widen between the haves and the have-nots,
and it is.
If we continue to get into a situation where that gap continues to grow, that's not good for the game. And I'm not saying the G5 should make as much money as the P4. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that you have to find a system that is universally accepted. That the G5 and frankly, the Big 12 and the ACC are cool with, because we know that Brett Ymark just came out and said, 3 weeks ago, that hey, yeah, we really need to make sure that we do well in basketball, because we know that we're not the best conference in football right now,
right,
in terms of wins and money, revenue generation. So we know we have to do well in basketball. So if Brett Ymark, the commissioner of the Big 12, is already in that mindset, that tells me everything I need to know. This is not someone who's like, yeah, Greg is going to go out and, try to create a great system for everyone. Yeah, he doesn't feel that way. He feels like, hey, the SEC and the Big 10 are going to do what's best for them, and we got to figure out how to survive. And for that reason, I say, hey, maybe villain's strong, but Greg Sankey is definitely a schemer. He is out for himself. And that's just what it is.
I think you have to find a way to understand what Greg Sankey's doing is what's best for his constituents. And I just don't understand why that is a problem. And I think the bigger issue is that Brett Ymark would have done the exact same thing had he been in Greg Sankey's position.
Agreed.
Tony Petitti did the exact same thing. If the Pac-12 had done so, they would be alive today. They wouldn't be dead. If Phillips hadn't signed a 55-year grant of rights, you'd be in a much more
not once, but
twice stable place than you are now. Greg Sankey's doing what you wish your commissioner would have done. Now, we've also talked about on this show ad nauseum the fact that I believe that the NCAA college basketball tournament is going to be expanded. Who's one of the leading voices in that? Greg Sankey. And you don't have to like it, but he's coming for the Big 12. He's coming for their revenue stream, because I think most people understand that the Big 12 is driving revenue through basketball. Do you think it's accidental that they're having a renaissance in Dallas at the SEC? Do you think that's an accident? No, that is a tactic. Do you think it's accidental that the Big 12 went to Las Vegas for the next 2 years? That's not accidental.
Yeah.
That is what it is. And it's remarkable to me that we're in a position where Greg Sankey runs college athletics. You don't have to like it, but you better learn to love it, because that dude's pulling the strings.
Right.
And I think that the hardest part for all of the Sankey haters is you would have done the exact same thing that he's done given the opportunity. How do you get away from that?
Yeah, I don't think you get away from it. Because I think it's the truth. It's the reality of the situation. But I think running parallel to that for all of these commissioners is a responsibility to make sure that you don't burn this thing to the ground through greed. And I think that's the thing. Like, even if you take it at a baseline level with just Greg Sankey, like in his what he prioritizes. For Greg Sankey, you can't have a situation where your greed puts you in a position that's less than ideal.
Totally
where
agree.
You know what I mean? Like, you can't be too aggressive to a point where you burn people out. And I think that for me is what I'm curious about. Where is that line? Where is the limit? Where do we, like, how far can we go before everybody else who's not the SEC in the Big Ten, not Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti, stand up and say, hey, this system's not good enough. There needs to be change. And there's more of us than there are of you. And we're going to figure out a way to do this. And because you can kind of start to see where vitriol is starting to rise, where you have the G5 and you've got the Big 12 and the ACC sitting here being all pissed off. And they're like, hey, man, like, we're not making enough money. And, Brett Ymark talking about how, hey, we got to have a look into this contract in 2027. Like, there's a reason for that. They're not just going to sit here and watch you stack on top of your pile of money while they're out here trying to figure out how to survive.
I think if you are Tony Petitti, didn't Tony Petitti go along for the ride?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I mean,
much to their benefit in the Big Ten, right?
What's he really done that's been transformative?
He's been there 15 minutes.
Yeah. Like,
right. So if I am Brett Ymark, Brett Ymark has got to find a way to shore up his edges. You got to find a way to get your perimeter to a position of strength, which means the bottom half of the Big 12 has to perform. You've got to become an elite basketball product top to bottom.
Yeah.
And it's why BYU, I think, is so critically important. I keep saying this, and I keep like, that's because you're a fat Mormon. Bro, if you don't believe that BYU is critically important to the Big 12, you're out of your mind. Because when that brand wins on the football field and the basketball court, there are no fan bases like it. And people will drive revenue through those programs. Look at Texas Tech. And I know that, again, all my friends in the pew lost their minds and started throwing tortillas at me when I said, hey, the Big 12 is suffering under the weight of Texas Tech losses.
Yes.
And you needed more in basketball. Monty, first-year coach. Totally get it. Totally get it. All hat, no cattle.
100%.
Joey McGuire has been a pretty frustrating figure. Critical year for the Big 12 right now. Right now. Year one of the expanded football playoff right now.
Who's going to have the most representation? Oh, that's right. I already know.
And I just will continue to go back to the fact that this conference, the Big 12, doesn't have a brand. So you don't have to, you can hate Greg Sankey all you want, but what's going on inside your walls? You just picked up 4 nameplates, and 2 of those 4 at Colorado and at Utah. And I would, as soon as Kenny Dillingham doesn't have Herm Edwards' bag on his forehead, maybe they will actually be able to build and continue to strive, because I think Kenny Dillingham's a hell of a coach.
Yeah.
But you better pay attention, because my feeling is Colorado and Utah are going to have – Utah's going to win the conference and Colorado's going to be top 5. And you're going to hate it. And you're going to rip Deion Sanders on the show every single day of the football season.
Every moment you get.
But you should be upset with, if you're a fan of the Raiders, if you're a fan of – you pick your team in this league. If you're a fan of TCU, be pissed at Sonny Dykes. Don't be pissed at Deion Sanders. Right? All I can tell you is this league is vulnerable inside and out. And it's because of the appetite of Greg Sankey to consume. That guy just eats. That doesn't make him a bad guy. It doesn't make him a villain. It makes him a really good businessman.
Yeah.
Is what it is.
Yeah.
All right. Your thoughts. Brandon Butler. So how long before your boy Booker requests a trade from the Suns there, Monty? Should already be wearing purple and gold. And Jake, I'm sure, won't back me up on this because he doesn't support me in a goddamn thing on this show.
Right.
I told you it was a mistake for Booker to sign that extension in Phoenix.
Oh, yeah. You've been saying that. I remember going back to before the extension was even a thing on Book's rookie deal, where you were talking about, like, yeah, he's going to go to the Lakers at some point. And they had struggled. The Suns had struggled for all those years while it was Point Book and everybody else on that garbage ass roster. Garbo, please. Yeah, I mean, you've been talking about that for years. I mean, at least 5 years that I can remember.
I think you have to trade one of those 3 players. You're not trading Kevin Durant. I doubt you're trading Devin Booker. My guess is Brad Beal's ass is gone.
Brad?
You're going to get a new head coach and staff, and you're going to trade Brad Beal. Because they have no draft picks.
Yeah.
They're cash strapped, and they have no draft picks.
But my feeling is you can figure it out with Book and KD, right? Like, obviously, those 2 guys seem to work together just fine. And
I would agree.
And when Brad wasn't out there, the offense was fine. But I'm telling you, they got torched in this series because they were not. And I agree with you. Defense is definitely a thing they need to address. But they weren't running offense. It basically was just, what Kobe used to call, like hope basketball. Like, hey, we're accidental basketball. We're gonna run a pick. We're gonna drive the paint. We're gonna kick it out. Like, that's all they're doing. And that's not gonna be good enough against really athletic teams that can keep up with you physically. Like, if you can get around the pick, or you can switch and still be fine, pick and roll to kick is not going to do anything for you. You got to run like legit offense.
It's why Jalen Brunson is so unbelievably good. Do you guys understand that he scored or assisted 72% of their offense last night? Who do the Suns have that? And I am tending to come to your direction. I would trade Bradley Beal. I would remake that roster. And I think I probably would try to find Mike Conley on the Suns makes them a championship team. That's the guy you need. That's the guy you need, in my opinion.
You need to get Devin Booker and Kevin Durant off the ball and in positions to do what they do. That's it. Brandon
Butler can't trade Brad. He has a no trade clause. When has a no trade clause ever stopped somebody from being traded?
Yeah.
That's
no trade clause only matters if Brad Beal is going to enforce it.
Yeah, and I would guess he wouldn't. Why would anyone be pissed? Capazzo, hello. Why would anyone be pissed at Neon Dion? I can't imagine. Can't imagine. James, the test of how new teams will do is week 4. Utah at Oak State. Whoever wins this will be the favorite to win the conference. Aaron Wilson. Make it so easy. Aaron Wilson, Tech has to step up. Greg Sankey consumes. Who the hell is he? Thanos?
Yeah.
He is. He is. UW fan Jim. Tony Petiti will grate a new pair of cement shoes when Sankey is done using him to consolidate power. You're probably not wrong. Custom fit shoes, too. OG Gary, rip the Band-Aid off. Hurry up with the Super League. I'm saying.
But again, Sankey's not going to do that until he's forced. Why would he? Why would you? You're already raking in piles of money.
I do think that's the issue. I think Greg Sankey does not want to lose leverage. And if a Super League is formed, he automatically loses leverage. Unless he becomes the all-knowing overlord of the Super League.
Look what he said to Ross Dellinger, right? He goes and says, "Hey, dude, like, why would we change anything, man? Like, I'm not talking about it because I don't need to talk about it. We're raking it in."
I haven't talked about the Super League, and I'm not going to do it today. The fact that people have interest in throwing ideas out, that's up to them. I spend my time on what I have to do.
And then look at the other one. This is the better one right here. Look at this.
All the private equity, if you use the cliche quote, if I was buying stock, I'd buy stock in college sports. Well, apparently there are a lot of people who believe that outside of college sports. Something is going right. He did note the industry's, quote, serious issues.
So,
you mean like NIL lawsuits that you're going to lose?
So let me get this right. Even with those, Greg's not sweating because he's got so much money. Those lawsuits don't really matter to him because he's not only got the best football conference in the country, but because of that, he's got I'm telling you, he's got a war chest just sitting
He's got
here
all the leverage
at his disposal, bro. Like,
he's got all the leverage. The NIL lawsuits, and
like,
you just remember, hey, I remember Uncle Monty said that on the Monty program one day.
Hey, look here, man.
When you guys are all standing around circle jerking at Bucky's eating your barbecue sandwiches. Okay? And James is...
Yeah, putting a new definition on pulled pork. You know what I mean?
When James is putting on a demonstration about plucking, minnows out of Oak State Gundy's mullet. And you guys are like, man, the dexterity of this bun. Is this brioche? Just remember Uncle Monty told you that I don't remember what I wanted to get credit for, but all I can say is that I think this Super League is inevitable.
Yes.
And I think Greg Sankey knows that.
And he's going to delay that thing as long as he can.
Yes, he will.
And the only thing, in my opinion, that will move Greg off his position is ESPN. Honestly, because once ESPN gets involved and starts pushing back, then Greg's going to have to be like, okay, now our TV partners are pushing back. This has much bigger picture ramifications. Now I got to acquiesce a little bit.
Yep, I agree. San Diego State Glenn. I read last week that Brad Beal has a no trade clause in his contract.
Right.
It's a pro rata he deserves.
Right. Again,
sorry,
yes, he has a no trade, but if he doesn't enforce it, he doesn't like.
Brad Beal, guys like Bradley Beal, I think what you're going to see is that they will go to him and they will say, hey, where do you want to go? Let me see what I can do. And they're going to wind up eating a lot of his contract.
Yep.
I think it's highly unlikely that Booker or KD wind up in a different spot.
Yeah.
You just don't see those guys get traded very often.
Well, and again, I think those two together with a core of complementary players you just have much better basketball flow, right? With two guys on it's the Lakers model. LeBron and AD, everyone else has a job to do, right? Like, it's not hard to understand.
It's that or Bradley Beal winds up rotting away on a bench, which he does not want to do. He only left Washington because he wanted to win.
Yeah.
And I think we'll see. No trade clauses do not mean you can't get traded.
And this is where I say to the Suns, make Brad Beal first guy off the bench. Make him the sixth man.
Yeah, Mike Phillips. Brad did an excellent job reducing his own trade value.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, how bad were you this year? Like, And I
Oh,
think about
man.
Brad Beal's injury issues. Bring him off the bench, dude. Do you think anybody forgot about how many games you missed early in the year with your bad back? Do you think anyone forgot about that? Do you think anyone forgot about the fact that Kevin Durant missed a bunch of time this year? I didn't forget about that. So my point is, lighten the guy's minutes load and bring him off the bench and rotate those three through the roster.
I mean, this is easily the worst year of his career. Bradley Beal, 53 games, averaged 33 minutes and 18 points. I look at his, I mean, obviously he shot the three very well for them, but I just don't see that he is a player of leverage, man.
He
Like,
wasn't a problem. The defense didn't have to respect him.
no. And his defense was not respectable.
Garbo.
Yeah. It'll be interesting, no doubt. Stepanek says, doctor's appointment time, everyone. Have a great day. Hope you are
Hey,
well.
good luck, bro.
Big Daddy Magic.
Oh, this should be good.
Hey, playa. Booker is already talking to Victor. Yeah.
Victor's the way.
I'm sure Devin's going to San Antonio. That makes sense. Smoke more weed. Jimmy Otson. What team would Brad Beal approve a trade to? I have no idea.
No clue.
Couldn't even begin
I
to
honestly,
guess.
I don't. I think if I'm Brad Beal, I don't want to be traded. I want to find a way to make it work in Phoenix. And I'm telling you, that would include him being a sixth man. Think about it. It makes perfect sense. Hey, I'm gonna be the first guy off the bench, and all I gotta do is what I've done my entire career in Washington, which is go out and put the ball in the hole. It's a perfect transition for this club.
Yeah, if you look at their money,
like they're screwed, dude. You don't have
$35 million under.
Bro, you don't have draft picks, and you're way in the hole on luxury tax.
And you are paying Bradley Beal $50.2 million. And it is and he's not a free agent till 2027. I mean, it's outrageous. It is absolutely outrageous. He is due $50 million, $53 million, and $57 million in a player option.
Jesus.
Which you are not relinquishing that money. And I don't know what you do with that. And the other issue for Devin Booker is that Book's not a free agent till 28. And he's also due 53, 57, and 61. Like, I don't know what you do with this roster. I really don't, because you just extended Grayson Allen.
You got to figure it out.
I mean, dude.
That's why, again, throw him up. That's why Frank Vogel is the question mark here. If you're the Suns front office, right, you have to go out and you got to say, okay, so we moved on from Monty Williams to go ahead and get Frank Vogel. That clearly didn't work. Monty Williams took this roster further. And obviously, roster looks a bit different. Of course, they made changes. But in the prior incarnation, you made it much further. You went to the finals. So this is regression as far as the organization is concerned.
Yes.
And I'm not saying this is all on Frank Vogel, because I am not a believer in that. I don't believe that coaches are the sole purpose as to win or lose like some people do in Suns Nation. But what I am telling you is that this roster needs someone to come in who can gain the respect of the players right away. Because I'm telling you right now, this little escapade that Frank Vogel ran in the locker room last week,
where did you guys hear about that? He faked the players felt Frank Vogel lost his shit in the locker room. I guess 2-3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And the players apparently rolled their eyes at him and thought it was fake. Because I know Frank Vogel a little bit. He's not a guy that loses his mind. He doesn't yell at people. Apparently, he went in there and just lit them up. And that's where this team died, they say. But I don't even know. I don't even know what you do if you're the Suns. I mean, Matt Ishbia's got a lot of money, dude. And yeah. I totally understand that he wants to win. You don't buy yourself championships like this. You just don't. And I think it's going to be really difficult for him to go out and replace Frank Vogel. And I just don't know. I mean, Kevin Young just left for BYU,
Yeah.
so he's out, right? I mean, if I guess Kenny Atkinson at Golden State, but I think you've got to find somebody like a Mike D'Antoni. You've got to find somebody that can come in and instill energy into that offense because you're not stopping anybody.
Yeah.
You're not stopping anybody. And my real opinion is that the only way to save this thing is to trade one of those three guys. And Kevin Durant and Devin Booker have shown they play together well.
Yeah.
So
I'm saying they're not going anywhere. And yeah, I'm happy to sit here and criticize Kevin. I think, so Shams reported allegedly that sources tell him that Kevin was unhappy that he was, quote, relinquished to the corner in their offense too often. And to that, I say, dude, you're Kevin Durant. Like, you're one of the best players the game's seen in the last 20 years, and you're telling me you got relinquished to the corner? That doesn't add up for me. That doesn't make a lot of sense. Not the part where he may have gotten pushed to the corner, but the part that he would allow that to happen. The part where you want to sit here and tell me that you weren't getting enough of the ball and you're Kevin Durant. You're not, again, if Brad Beal had said that, okay, I understand that, because that's Brad Beal's role in the offense. You go down to the corner, then you come out onto the wing after someone sets a screen for you. That's pretty much what you do. Kevin gets a ton of the ball, dude. So I don't buy those reports. I think that Kevin Durant and probably Devin Booker didn't quite get along with Frank. That's what I think it probably was. That the relationship, while was there, was not strong enough for these two to truly buy in completely to what they were trying to do.
I think Mike D'Antoni is the right guy. You need a player's coach that runs high octane offense, because I just don't see this team being able to. I was pleasantly surprised as a Devin Booker homer. I was pleasantly surprised. His defense is at least twice as good as I've ever seen it.
Yeah.
Kevin Durant, again, I was pleasantly surprised. Bradley Beal is not a good defender at all.
No.
And I also think you look at the rest of this supposed roster, and how many guys do you think? I mean, is Nurkic a long-term fit there?
Yeah, I think he is.
But the guy can't play.
Well,
the guy, he's a
it's
lumbering.
It's matchup based, just like anybody else. But
Royce O'Neal was horrendous.
Yeah, he made some shots last night, but he didn't live up to it overall.
Horrendous. And you just go up I think Eric Gordon was fine. He's a fine bench player. Josh Okogie was your best bench player for most of this series.
Yeah, Grayson Allen's the guy you got to look at. Is Grayson Allen someone you're bringing back, or is he someone you're shipping out? Because
no, you're keeping him. You just extended him. He's got to be healthy. They missed him.
Yeah.
He's your best defender. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not even, I don't even think that's a conversation.
That's why I say I think the quickest, most efficient way to figure this out is removing Vogel and his staff and bringing a new staff in. I hate to say that after 1 year, but given your cap situation and given the guys you have on this roster, I don't know what else you do. Because again, it's just my opinion. It's speculation. I don't know for a fact, but I would guess if you're Brad Beal, you're not trying to get traded. I don't think you are.
Think so.
So if that is the case, then yeah, from a money standpoint, your quickest route is a new head coach and new staff. And my only concern with D'Antoni is he's not a defensive guy. Obviously, he's offense first, and that's pretty much it. And I love him for it. Hey, you're unequivocally you, right? You're not trying to be Doc Rivers, where you're trying to say you're a championship head coach and you're anything but that at this point. Mike D'Antoni is saying, hey, we are offense first. We're trying to score 130 a night, and all we got to do is keep teams under 120, 125, and we'll be fine. And so, yeah. And by the way, it would be a bit of a renaissance for Mike. Obviously, he had his time during the Nash era. So, that could be a nice little reunion. So that might work. But yeah. I'm curious to see what they do.
I think they're going to miss Kevin Young. And I think that it'll be very interesting to see how all that works out. I think you hire D'Antoni, and you have got to keep David Fizdale on that staff. And I think you retool your bottom 12 players on this roster, and you try to trade you tried to trade Brad Beal. That's the best. I think that's the only thing you can do.
Yeah.
That's it. Because I just think that whole move was an abject failure.
I would legit try to sell Brad Beal on being a 6-man for the next couple seasons. I would try to sell him on that and see if you can get him to buy before trying to trade him.
It's an interesting concept. It is an interesting concept, you know. Willie Wilson. Are you the former center fielder?
Willie Wilson.
The Capitals were overmatched against the Rangers.
Overmatched?
Fuck you, Ovechkin.
Bro, they didn't even show up.
Go back to Russia and get the pro rata you deserve. Because it brings great warmth into my respiratory system, into the bosoms of awesomeness that is the sexually satiating body of the Montnator.
His cock.
I am so happy that Ovechkin did not score a point in that series. And as a casual of the Artemi Panarin faithful, I tell you,
yeah,
I want the Rangers to win.
And no, I don't want Ovi to take over Gretzky's all-time scoring record.
Screw Ovi.
Oh, Ovi. And he's just chilling on the left dot, man.
Yeah, go get that Navalny, Ovi.
Yeah.
I can't stand him. I quite literally.
Who do you hate more as a player?
Your
Ovi or Raj?
Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah. Or I'll throw another one in there. Cody Parkey.
See, why do you do shit like this? We were having a perfectly fine show. And then you got to bring up the double doink. Why? Like, I've never understood this about you.
What? Those are three. That's a good multiple choice question.
Is it because I beat your ass in golf all weekend?
No.
Is that
No.
Is that why you were so upset?
Apologize to that man.
No.
Why would you bring up Cody Parkey's name?
Because dude is a villain in Chicago. Steve Bartman.
You're enjoying this, aren't you?
Now I've given you 4. I've given you 4. I mean,
you couldn't pull a Hawk Harrelson to throw in there on top of that?
No, dude. No, I couldn't.
You're not a nice person. Despite what all the hosts say, you're not a nice person.
So Raj then is what you're going with.
Whatever. Off season's going to be wild in the NBA. Too many Lotter for luxury tax teams. Okay. Bucks, Suns, Lakers, Warriors, all going to need to make wholesale changes. Well, I think the Warriors have an easy path to that.
Yeah.
So,
But
and if I'm the
end of an era is
Suns,
coming here.
all I'm saying, if I'm the Suns, I'd rather have Klay Thompson than Bradley Beal.
I think it works better.
But I think Klay wants to be a Laker. So I think everybody wants to be a Laker.
Yeah.
But, you know.
How many more years do we get of KD, Bron, and Steph? Because I don't think it's that many.
2.
Yeah, it's 2 more.
I think it's 2 more.
Yeah.
Because I think Bronny's going to wind up on the Lakers, and he's going to play 2 years with his old man. I think here's the real question. Do you believe this is the real Anthony Davis? Because
how do you mean the real Anthony Davis? Like production-wise?
he's the best. He's been the best player in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to talk about it.
I do agree with him on the disrespect on the defensive end. I do think it's embarrassing he wasn't in the Defensive Player of the Year voting.
You understand that Anthony Davis has been, and it is arguable. I think there's been a lot of special performances so far in this first round.
Yeah.
Anthony Davis has been the best player in the NBA playoffs so far.
Yeah.
He has been elite. He has been a defensive wall. He has been a want-to rebounding machine.
Yeah.
And the guy just has been dominating. It's unreal how good Anthony Davis is when he has no tears, strains, or pulls.
Yeah.
Which is very rare.
Yeah.
Are you seeing enough to invest in him for the future?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, the dynamic at play in the league is like, hey, we have to invest in a player regardless of the injury situation. right? Like, so you understand with Davis that, yeah, he's probably going to miss time. This year, though, he didn't miss time. I think what did he have? 74 games, I think he played in the
Yeah.
regular season or something like that. So, like, he had a great year. And now obviously he's carried that into the postseason. And it's a great performance. And I look at what he did in the bubble championship. Like, he carried them. He really did. And so the question only is, hey, what kind of year is Davis going to have when that next team invests in him?
Anthony Davis. I think there's only two options: Anthony Davis or Jalen Brunson. One of those two has been the best player in the NBA playoffs. Anthony Davis, 42 minutes, 30.5 points, 62% from the floor. The guy is averaging 6 free throws a game, 16 fucking rebounds, 4 dimes, and 2 blocks against the Denver Nuggets.
Yeah, he's giving Jokic problems. No
Are
doubt.
you out of your mind?
And that's why I say, like, I
Unbelievable.
I think that people forget what he's capable of, and that's why I say,
Man.
like Bron and AD works together. The problem is, and I've never been a Bron guy, but I'm seeing this more and more lately, where Bron makes a mistake and wants to blame his teammate, and then Anthony Davis has to clean it up. And I don't really understand that out of LeBron. I don't understand why
LeBron is watching his legacy slip away. I don't think this is complex at all. LeBron James you are watching, and Luka's going through the same thing. You see guys that have these light bulb moments. It's really rare in LeBron's situation because he's inarguably the best player of his generation.
Right.
He's watching the fact that it's playing out and turning into a fact is the right way to say it. He's not going to win another championship. And for guys like LeBron James, do you know how painful that is? Do you know how much that hurts?
Yeah.
Do you know how hard that is to reconcile? That's what you're seeing with him. And I think you're looking at Luka Doncic in Dallas, and he's realizing Kyrie Irving is outplaying him, and they're losing because of it.
Yeah.
And he's starting to understand that he cannot continue to play this style of basketball. And hey, that's cool. You showed up in a Camaro. Congratulations. You're losing playoff games. And you're the reason you're losing playoff games. And you're starting to understand that. And you're watching guys really struggle.
You think Book thinks about that?
Yes. Devin Booker has openly talked about the fact that you don't play this game to not win championships. Talked about it after the finals, I believe, that year.
Yeah.
You don't play this game to not win championships. You play this game for trophies. It's why am I such a passionate fan of soccer? Because there's only one bar at the end of every season. Nobody gives a crap who finished second, who won the trophy, who won the FA Cup, who won the Champions League, who won the Super League, who won. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
And in American sports culture anymore, it's just cool to compete. And guys like Kevin Durant that get torched for hopping teams, I have no problem with it.